What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with the Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with the Saturday Night Sit Down. And today, I got the honor and pleasure sitting down with a long time friend of mine, Eber Azana. What's going on?
What's going on, baby?
What's good, man?
I'm great, man. It's been too long, brother. It's been too long, man.
You know, it's crazy, man. I've known you for I don't even know how many years now. We went to
definitely over 10 years, 20 years, like that.
Yeah,
it's
something
been
like
20
that,
years,
man.
bro.
And I really wanted to sit down and talk with you because, you know, like I was telling you before, I'm maybe like a little Facebook stalker or whatever, man. But I've been seeing everything that you your whole life, I'm saying, on social media, and see where it comes, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs. You've been through so much, man. I know that this is going to be a real great conversation, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited, brother. I'm excited to be here, man. You've always been a positive energy, always show me love. Every time, you've seen like my falls, my gains, my wins, and you've always shown me love, so I appreciate it.
No, of course, man. I genuinely love to see my people succeed, man. So I'm so happy and so, proud of everything you be able to do in your life. And it's just the beginning, man. I know we got a lot more coming, so I'm excited.
Keep winning, baby. We gotta keep winning.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. So the reason why I had you on here and stuff, as I know you said you listened to a couple of my episodes and everything, is that we've all struggled growing up and trying to find our place in this world. You know what I mean? Like the right, the wrong, and coming before social media, we didn't have the access to so many people and see how many people are like us out there within reach.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know for myself is that I kind of hid a lot of things about me. I kind of painted myself to try to fit into places where I didn't belong. And that led me to a lot of depression and anxiety and sadness because I wasn't being true to myself.
Yeah, brother. That's a thing. That's
a
real thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Sure.
And having conversations with people like you and people who've been there, the highs, the lows, and when we didn't know to come, maybe we can make it easier for the generation coming up behind us to see, really be who they are and just grow and help them a little bit easier transition into becoming adult to man, however you want to put it,
Yeah, for sure.
So when I sit down with everybody, my very first question to you, and getting your idea is, what do you think are some of the main qualities or characteristics it takes to being a good person or a good man?
Yeah, I would say definitely keeping an open mind. You know what I mean? I think, it's not judging before you get to know the person.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's being able to, explore and learn from people and their experiences and, and listening. I think if, one of the biggest characteristics I think that makes people good people is their ability to listen and actively listen. You know what I mean? Because you can just look and pretend that you're listening or just but at the end of the day, it's about actively listening, actively participating in someone's conversation and story. And I think that's definitely super important. And like I said, being open-minded, being honest with yourself, and more importantly with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with anyone else.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and I think just being happy. I mean, that sounds a little simple, but at the end of the day, comes down to just being a happy person. I think when you project happiness, I think you receive it, and then more happier people will start being around you. And I think that's all good energy, that people can bring to your life. And I think that helps you in every single day struggle or in your career. Right. Just being around good, positive people. And by staying positive, being happy, I think that just you naturally will pull in great people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to touch on, like you said, just being open-minded, because that's the first time in my episodes that somebody has mentioned that. And I think that's huge, being open-minded, because seeing for myself, too, is my family's so different, right? My dad is white with green eyes. My mom is dark. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen all these, different colors within my family. Yeah. So I've never really understood what racism was, until I got into school. And I'm like, wait, that really happens? Like, how do you not, I'm so, baffled by it. Right. And I'm so glad that I was, have such a diverse background and seeing that, because it's really made me appreciate and enjoy so much more in life. You know, I love to sit down. That's why I do it. I love sitting down and talking to people and having conversations because I learn and I grow.
Right.
And keeping yourself to having an open mind is the only way that we're going to grow. Because if you're closed-minded, how are you going to accept any new information? You know,
like you talked about, you hit the nail on the head. It's about diversity, right? It's how diverse your camp is, the people you've been around. You know, I've been blessed to have found hip hop as an outlet when growing up. You know, like, you know, I used to learn, you know, I learned how to freestyle.
Right.
I was battling people in cafeterias and shit. So it was, that brought me to a more culturally diverse group of friends. And I've always had a culturally diverse group of friends. I never had, you know, just hung out with, you know, I'm Peruvian, so I didn't just hang out with Peruvians all the time. You know, I didn't just hang out with white people all the time. It was always a mix of different cultures till this day. Like my friends come from all over the place, from like Italy, Spain, South America, Black, white, Asian, Filipino, you name it. Like, it's just a mix of people. And that's what you know, to me, if it's like I meet a group of people and it's all the same, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, red flag, you know, because I think you want to be around different people because they bring other views and other perspectives, and they just help you grow as a person. I think that's, you know, super important to have. No,
absolutely. So definitely, like I said, open mind is one of the first times I've heard this on the show. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
And also I think I said, you know, when you're trying to be a good person and all these things, you have to have very strong morals, right? So for you, what are some of your most important morals or morals that you live by on a day-to-day basis?
Let's see, for sure is, I mean, karma, right? Or the golden rule. So to me, it's just like, you know, be good to others and then like others will be good to you, right? So, you know, that's something that, you know, I always at least try to, you know, be there for people, be there for my friends. You know, it's something that is, I always bring with me. I carry that mantra with me everywhere I go. I think also, I would probably say that's probably like the core of everything, right? It's just being good to people, you know, making sure that you're surrounded by good people. I think that's like, you know, probably one of the most important things. And I touched on honesty, right? It's like, you know, just being honest, and that coincides or with being a good person, right? So I would say those are probably my core too.
Yeah, definitely. I preach that to my daughter, just treating people with love and kindness. Like my thing is, and I say this on every show, but I love people. I genuinely just love people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think they're fascinating. It's amazing to see, you know, what they've been through, what they've been able to accomplish, their ups, their downs, and stuff like that. And just seeing, again, the difference and the diversity is what's just so amazing about what I love about living here, like especially in the United States, because I've gotten to see so many different people, so many backgrounds. You know, I was brought here when I was 20 days old. You know, my sister was raised in Puerto Rico for like 8 years, and I can see more of the Hispanic and the more, I guess, like the Puerto Rican in her than myself. And to me, like, I can't really say that I like I said, when it comes to music, you know, I love hip hop, R&B. I can listen to Salsa Merengue. And one of my best friends, Dan Welton, I used to go to his house all the time, and we would listen to Metallica and AC/DC.
It's a mix.
And Nirvana and so many different things.
My Spotify playlist will blow your mind.
Yeah,
like,
you know what I
mean, it is a mixture of just a smorgasbord of different, different types of music, like country, jazz, hip hop, folk, rock, metal, like literally a little bit of everything. And it's,
And I think that's what helps. That's definitely a big part of what helps us succeed. Being able to, again, find common ground with anybody and everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I feel so confident in my ability to go into any room with any type of person, be able to sit down and have a conversation and relate in some way or form, because I've been, so open and exposed to so many different things. And also with this show is like, I have like a lot of friends who their dad may or may not have been there in their lives for one reason or another. And I think it's so important to have strong male role models,
absolutely.
In our lives, and I say that to an extent because I know moms are great. Your mother's always going to be there. Your mom's your mom. And that was one thing that my dad has instilled in me. He would always tell me, like, you can treat me however you want, but respect your mother.
Right.
But it's also important to have, that good relationship with a male role model to help guide you, especially being a guy, your mom can't teach you what it is to be a man as much as she wants to, but it's very difficult. So with you and your dad growing up, what was your relationship with your dad? What's your relationship with your dad like?
Wow. So my dad, it's funny because, my dad's my best friend. So I tell my dad absolutely everything. There is no secret my dad doesn't know. Right. So he is, growing up, he's, because he had to work so much to provide for his family, he came to this country with nothing, really made something of himself, became a landscaper, and then started his own company and kind of snowballed, his success snowballed from there. Right. So, my relationship with my father, it's always, how do I put this? It's like, it's never smooth sailing with parents, right? Right. It's always a bumpy, rocky road. But I think the best thing that I learned from my dad, it was hard work, focus, ethics, and good work ethic. Because he was always on top of me, making sure it's like, hey, you got to do your homework, you got to do this, you got to do that. He was on literally like you're going to be grounded if you don't get a good grades, right?
Awesome.
So but I don't think that we became close until I would probably say the past like 8 years, right? Because I think once you're like in adulthood, right, your relationships and the dynamics change, right?
Yes,
because
yes.
Now you're able to share, you're able to share a beer, you're able to have a drink, you're able to talk about things, you're able to share things, you didn't want to share a lot of those things with your parents, So I think with my dad, it was kind of like at the beginning, we didn't have a lot of those conversations, a lot of that deep talk. And I think as now, in an adult mentality, an adult setting, it's completely different. And I think, my dad has been, one of my biggest role models, and, watching him work hard to get what he has and what he's been able to achieve with very little education. And he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. It's that relationship, seeing him and was a great example for me. And I know a lot of people don't have that, and I think that, it was good to see him, come home from work, really late. I was like, oh, wow, this guy is working his butt off. I really need to work harder. Right. So, and for me, my dad always made sure it's like, hey, your only job is to get good grades and focus. Right. So, and he really gave me that room to do that. And now our relationships improved so much, since I came out, I told you, what was it, 2017, 2018, I came out as bisexual. The first person I told was my father. So I never thought I was going to get I thought I was going to get a really bad reaction because my dad, he was, your typical traditional macho Latino.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was, and growing up, sometimes a lot of that would leak out, right? A lot of the, that macho-ness, you need to be in sports, you need to do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do sports. I want to create, I had to hide a lot of the stuff that, all my life I had to hide things, right? I had to hide my Vogue magazines. I couldn't be into fashion because men couldn't do fashion, right? Now I'm in Parsons, and I'm in doing a program with FIT as well, and he's my biggest cheerleader. He's like, "What are you doing? When are you launching this line?" So he's really pushing me to push my dream. So So I would say my relationship with my dad started off really rocky. A lot of it is because of that, me just not being able to be myself, right? To finally coming out, and then us creating an even stronger bond, right? Because I've been able to be myself in front of him, which is great. But yeah, he's an incredible role model, and he's growing as well as a person. And that's one thing I think sometimes we forget is parents,
yes,
grow.
Right,
They're still growing, right? So they're still learning. They're still, they come from a very different, very classic Catholic upbringing, right? And that brings, some very, closed-mindedness a little bit sometimes. A lot of great stuff, but, also, a little bit of closed-mindedness. And he's become such an open mind. He's become a great listener. As a member of the LGBT, he's, I've been able to share that world with him, and some of the vocabulary that confuses everybody these days sometimes too. So it's been great to have his full support, and it just has caused our bond to be even better. So,
and I think that's like you said too, coming because. I mean, I guess technically I'm second generation because I was born in Puerto Rico, but born when I was so young. But and my dad, again, growing up in Puerto Rico and having that strong, like you said, Latin background, and you know what I mean, like the whole macho-ness and all those things, it kind of really hindered our relationship. And the funny thing is too, is as I got older, you know, and I started becoming my own self and stuff, our relationship has improved a lot as well. And I think it's just that too. They had to take that time to learn and adjust and realize a whole different thing and transform themselves.
But you gotta it's like we have to put, and this one thing that I even tell my friends recently is like you have to put in the time to evolve that relationship.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like I ask my friends sometimes, it's like, when's the last time you shared a beer with your dad, or like took your dad out for dinner? You know, like you can shift the from that sort of parent and child relationship to a friendship. And I think that's the most beautiful thing when you become an adult, is you're able to shift that, right? And start to, you know, create a relationship that's more of a friendship. And I think that's something that sometimes we forget is still possible. You can actually do that. And yeah. So
yeah, no, and I know that you're saying that too, just coming out and him being your dad, the first person you told and stuff. I guess most of it came like being scared to disappoint him because the whole macho thing, you know, wanted to make sure that you're the man's man. You know what's so funny is that, well, I should bring it up that one of my all-time favorite Spanish songs growing up was El Gran Barón.
Ah, Gran Barón.
And
who's the singer?
I think it's Willie Colon.
Willie Colon. Yes.
And for the people that are just into it, but it's all about the story about a guy who has a son who wants his son to be a man's man, who his son grows up and ends up being gay and wanting to be a woman, and losing so much time because it wasn't what he wanted and they didn't speak, and they ended up passing away without really finishing that relationship. Yeah. And that, I'm just starting to get the chills thinking about that song. Like
it's
you such guys an emotional song.
It is incredible.
But it's such a wonderfully told story, and seeing that, and I'm sure, like I said, like a lot of people, I guess yourself, having to go through that. What was it that made you feel comfortable enough, or gave you the courage to come out and say, "Hey, Dad, you know, I'm bisexual"?
Yeah. So, well, technically, so my dad was the first person I told that I was going to come out, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I've had the blessing of having actually one of my good friends, Eva. She's been a good friend. I think you actually know her, but her mom, you know, was a big mother figure to me growing up, and she was a really good friend of mine. She was actually the first person I was like, hey, you know, I think I'm actually bisexual. So, but you know, I think it came to a point where I was just like tired. You know, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just need to be myself. You know, I had fallen in love with women, and I've, you know, fallen in love with men. And also when I would be in pain because of, you know, a relationship with a guy, I wouldn't have, you know, people necessarily. I would have my closest friends that knew I was bi, but I wouldn't have my parents or my family to like run and tell them about, like, hey, you know, this person just hurt me. Be there for me, right? Like you don't have that dynamic, that support system. And I was in a very dark place, and you know, I was just like, you know what, I can't do this more. I got to just be myself. And so I decided, I was like, you know what? My dad's either going to like flip out and something told me like, I don't think he will, but it was always in the back of my head, like that reaction. And I think that's what people are just so scared to do something like that. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And, I told him. I didn't come out to my mom for like another year after that, because like my mom was definitely the hardest. My mom was definitely the hardest. But I think that's what really gave me the courage, was just that moment in time where I'm like, you know what, I need my family to help me get through what I need to get through. It was almost like circumstance. But at the same time, I was also, like at a place where I was just like I said, I was just exhausted of having to hide that part of me. And I was also surrounded by good people, right, that love me for who I am. And that also gave me strength, right? I was like, these guys will never turn their back on me. Like, my best friends will never do that. So I just decided, I was like, I think this is just the right time. So
now, when like, because you just said, like, you said you think you're bisexual and stuff like that. Like, how did you realize that was the case, or was it?
Yeah. Like, well, I knew I was bisexual back when I was like, would say I was basically like a sophomore. No. I was a junior in high school. So actually, you know, and I had dated women for most of my dating life, I guess, at that time, right? And my sexual life. But yeah, so it's always been women. So I was like, you know, when I fell in love with a guy for the first time while I was in high school, I was like, what the hell? Like, what is this? Like, this is weird, right? Because I just I never had that sort of emotional connection with a guy. It's always been women. So I just questioned myself. I was like, am I gay? And I just, that was a big thing. I didn't even know, at that time, I didn't even know the term bisexual necessarily, right? Because I was just like, well, I just fell in love with this guy, right? And then over the years, it was like, but wait, but I'm still like attracted to women. I'm still very into women. So I was like, it was like a ball of confusion for me, right? So then obviously with the power of Google, you start to like research and you're just like, okay, what's my tribe? Like what is this thing? And you know, bisexuality is a real thing. And it's bisexuality, the bisexual community is very heavily discriminated against also by the LGBT community. It's something I speak about a lot because you have people within the community that are always like second guessing the bisexual community, or you have people, you know, even, you know, heterosexual people especially are, you know, oh, bisexuality is not a thing. Like you're either hiding behind it if you're a guy,
right,
or like you haven't made up your mind or you haven't made a decision. So
they want it black and white.
They want it black and white. And even till this day, you know what's funny is even till this day, I get people, they're like, oh yeah, but you like girls more or you like guys more, right? And I'm like, no, this is not how it works.
Right,
like, it's like when you meet two people, like who do you like more? You know, it's like you have to talk to them. You have to feel the vibe. So it's just, you know, it's just something that, you know, it's always a struggle. It's always a struggle. It's like, you know, you're not straight enough for this person. You're not this enough for that person. You just got to feel out people and see who you connect with. And that's just part of my journey.
So, and just forgive me if I'm prying a bit too much. Like,
no. Ask away. Open book.
The guy that you fell in love with. Now, was that somebody who was openly gay and you were just confused?
No. So like, that was not. No, that was a. At that time was not. You know, he's actually not out at all. But yeah, that's what made it even more difficult, right? Was because we were both just not going to expose, you know, our relationship to anybody. I mean, it was a very delicate situation, and you know, and that's just the level of complexity sometimes I fall into. And you know, luckily, you know, now I'm kind of just at a place where, like, you know what, like, you know, I need to be with people or be with somebody that's very comfortable with who they are, whether it's a girl, whether it's a guy, and also very comfortable to be with me, right? And that's just thing. And I'm just at that age where I'm just like, I can't do that anymore. So, but yeah, at the time it was very hidden. It was very hidden, very closeted. And you know, and then that was unfortunate, you know. But yeah, that's just life.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. And as I said, like another reason why I wanted to sit down and talk with you, because I remember, again, like following you back with like 2018, 2019 around there. And seeing at that time you were like 300 pounds, something like that.
Yeah, like, man, I hit
362.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy, and it contributed. I mean, that complexity of you know, my sexuality, depression. My parents' divorce also had a lot to do with that. Back in what was like 2004, I believe. I had just graduated high school.
Yeah,
just graduated high school, going into college, and I got hit with that, and it was very difficult for me and my sister. But yeah, so those things. Plus, you know, my sexuality, discovering myself, all those things just came down as like really deep depression. And I turned to food. Like a lot of people do, right? Yeah. They turn to food, and I just went to an extreme, man. Like I just couldn't stop, and I binged all the time. Every time I was in these really dark relationships or situations or dynamics, like I would just gravitate to food as my sort of healing mechanism. And so that really just became, you know, just super toxic. And I just, you know, started building up, you know, it started at like 210 pounds and 250, 300, just, you know.
And it's easy to ignore. You don't get on scale. You don't look at it. You know,
yeah, just refuse to accept it.
Yeah,
but when that doctor, I remember that doctor, Dr. Yu, shout out to Dr. Yu, it's my doctor. But I remember when she said the words, "You are morbidly obese." That's when I was like, oh my God, this is like real life. Like I'm literally just hit that. You know what I mean? So that's when it became like, holy crap, I need to like do something. And also my doctor was like, you're either going to do something or you're going to die. So, that's when I decided to get bariatric surgery. And that was super life-changing. Till this, I wish I'd have done it sooner. It really gave me my confidence back. It gave me, reason to like keep going, So I think that's, it was something I definitely do not regret till this day.
No, and I was getting to that too because, like I said, like I told you before the show, and seeing those pictures of you back then, like looking at that, I seen such a sadness in your eyes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Even though, like, again, I could see you were at like like places eating with your friends and surrounded by so many people and stuff, but you were really sad.
Oh yeah,
and I could see that. And after, like I said, remember you made the announcement out there coming out that you're a bisexual and letting the world know and stuff, and seeing the huge 180 and just like the sense of relief.
Honestly, I just
freedom.
Decided to put myself first, man. Like that's basically what it come down to. Like I just got to the point where I loved myself enough to not die. Number one. And so I was like, I need to get this surgery. COVID hit. At the time, right? And like it actually was a blessing and a curse. Obviously, curse all the terrible things that COVID brought, right? But it allowed me to focus because I was just inside the house. So I just started losing all that weight, and like my confidence started coming back, and like I think I was always perceived as confident, but it was very much a defense mechanism where I'm just like I want to be the life of the party. I want to be like all-time energy. I'm still that person, but it's like authentic. Yeah. Like I'm like loving life right now. Like I'm having a good time, and it's almost like I'm making up for lost time, as weird as it sounds. Because like so many people, sometimes they criticize me like, oh, hey, you're going out a lot and you're partying. And I'm like, listen, man, like I have a new lease on life. Like, please, like let me have my fun. I want to go and have a good time, obviously in moderation at times, but yeah. So,
but I think a lot of that comes to like, and again, like we said before the show, is jealousy, because that's too, like I said, for me, people who are out capable to go out there and be themselves. That's why I said Dennis Rodman I love him so much. I think he's just an amazing person, because he was the first person I seen like doing all these wild and crazy things, and the whole world telling him you can't, you shouldn't, and he doesn't care, just doing what he wants to and being happy. Yeah. And then it's like when this whole thing came out with whole North Korea and him going over, I'm like, our savior and grace from like like World War III is Dennis Rodman. Like,
yo, that's funny. I know, right? Like, why would they send his ass over there? Yo, that's funny. Man.
He goes over there and he's so cool. So I think a lot of that, like you said, people coming to you and be like, oh, you're doing this too much. It's more of a place of jealousy. Like they want to do that, but they're just maybe not confident enough or have that belief in themselves to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, it's like, even with fashion, right? Like I've been, I always make fun of Stanford. I feel like us as a city is a little like backtracked a little. Like we're still like, we try to be New York City, but we're not there in diversity or in like open-mindedness yet.
Yes.
But we're going to put Stanford's getting on the map, right? Like we want to, build up Stanford in terms of a place where you could just be yourself. But like when I lost the weight, that was the first thing I did, was just like, I want to just try on different shit. Like I want to like wear all the brands I've always wanted to wear because I love fashion. So I was like, I wanted to like experiment with different styles and experiment and try on different things. And like, I would always like, I'm thinking, oh, what can I mix and match and like put out there? Because I have that new like confidence and that like freedom of just being myself. Right. And that's, and, sometimes people are going to see what I wear and be like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to wear what I want to wear. And people in Stanford are going to be like, what the hell? And that's cool.
Yeah.
Just get to just experiment and have fun. And like, that's what, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said jealousy is just like, I just don't care. Like, I'm just going to be me, and you're going to either like me or you're going to hate me. I'm going to post things that you may not like or you may like, and I'm just not going to care if you don't, But I always accept constructive feedback. So, if you didn't like something, just tell me why. I'm always like open to that conversation, So.
And it's big that you touched on that too, that I've been saying this a lot lately too, and the biggest thing that my mom would always say, because like as you mentioned, my mom would always tell me, I would rather people hate me for who I am than love me for who I'm not.
That's right.
Like she's comfortable, as she says, I don't bite my tongue. I am who I am, and if they love me, great, and if they don't, then oh well. That's a huge thing with that too, especially with the whole fashion thing. And I know you're touching on that, and then going to what school you go to now again?
Yeah, so I'm actually in 2 programs right now. I'm doing FIT. I'm doing a sneaker design program with FIT, and I've got a streetwear design program with Parsons. So I'm doing that on the side when I have free time.
So like I said, getting into that, because I know, taking to this point and everything that happened before, like, not being able to, hiding your Vogue magazines and all those things, and keeping that hidden and stuff for the fashion. Like, when was your first, I guess, when did you fall in love with fashion, I guess would say that?
Wow, definitely high school. High school I fell in love with fashion. And it was just, at the time it was like urban wear is the term, right? So urban wear didn't transform into streetwear until like the 2000s. So when you look at the 90s, you had brands like Rockaware, Mecca, like
Fubu, Aniche.
Fubu, Aniche, like, what is it? What is Amber Walker? I think it was Amber Walker. Walker Wear, which is another pioneer of urban wear fashion. But at that time, it was called urban wear. And I mean, all my friends were wearing it. Again, I was very, very much like pulled into like hip hop culture. And I wanted to wear what, the artists were wearing. I wanted to wear what LL was wearing, what Usher was wearing. Like, I wanted to wear what, and also like the people I was hanging out with, like we all, like, it was just the fit to wear at the time. And that's what sucked me into like fashion in the first place, is like, getting that fresh fit, like ready for school, like talking to your friend, talking to your boys about, oh, where'd you get you? You went there. At that time we had a store called Maximus on Atlantic Street. That was the place to go to get the latest fit. Like, it was just the place. It was great. Like, and I just fell in love with it. Started off with urban, and then after that I was like, I discovered Alexander McQueen, which is like genius designer. From England, and he combined sort of punk rock and couture, and and I started watching, like, I started to like purchase like fashion magazines. It was originally like hip hop music magazines, like Source magazine, like, and then I was like, okay, now I'm going into the pages of Vogue, but like I said, I had to hide a lot of that stuff, right? So, but that's kind of what it started for. So urban wear was what really sort of influenced me and pulled me into fashion in high school. So then basically middle school into high school. That's when I fell in love with
And
fashion.
I know, unfortunately, recently we just lost a very big fashion,
Virgil
fashion
Abloh, man.
Yeah, Virgil Abloh, and you said he was like one of your role models and stuff.
I can't.
What is it about him that made him your role model? Somebody that you just like loved.
So I have a book called Ablohisms. And you guys need to like get this book. It's a really tiny book. It's a coffee table book, but every now and then I open it up. And what I loved about Virgil is his view on creativity as its own creative outlet. And that sounds a little weird to say, but it's like he embraced creativity. He embraced open-mindedness, and he did things, and this is one of the quotes they publish, is like, he did things for the 17-year-old child of him. He did it for his 17-year-old self, right? And that's why a lot of his designs are like playful, a lot of his, you know what I mean? And he also elevated streetwear. He elevated something that I grew up with being, something that was like, secluded in a section in Macy's, and that was like sort of categorized as urban wear as a way to sort of marginalize the group of people that were purchasing and wearing it, which was, Black and Latinos, right, at the time, right? White people weren't wearing FUBU, right. Maybe one or two, but for the majority it was minorities, right? So, and I think that he is one of, so he did high fashion influenced by streetwear. And he was kind of one of the first pioneers to actually do that, right? So, I saw his his first runway show as Off-White, and I was like, what is this? It's like incredible, and out of the box thinking, like pushing the envelope of, very simple things can be, sort of elevated and reintroduced and reimagined, and also like his career and everything from his, his partnership with Kanye, his work, he became the first Black creative director for Louis Vuitton, men's Louis Vuitton. I mean, that's incredible.
Huge.
That's huge. And I've been following his career for a while now, and it's such a loss. Like I was in my friend's coffee shop when I read the news on Instagram, and I was like completely devastated. I like held back tears. It was because like one of my biggest dreams was to meet this person. Like I was like, I'm going to meet this person. And I just wanted to have like a 30-second conversation with this person because he has influenced me so much. Like he is the reason why I'm back in school. You know what I mean? Like I want to create stuff that, my 17-year-old self was going to love. You know what I mean? And I follow a lot of his, like I said, Ablohisms. He's got like a bunch of quotes that really sort of talk about creativity and letting go of like the status quo and letting go of like categories and boxes and just, being, sort of challenging yourself to be like, to make mistakes even in design and in creativity and just like letting go. So yeah, I'm like definitely like super sad. And I never thought I would actually get like emotionally affected by like a celebrity passing away. But this was just so close to home because literally he was the domino effect to me even like trying to push my brand. Yeah. So.
And it's something that you mentioned that too, like, he was designing for the 17-year-old self. And I think they said like, I mean, me as a dad and having my son and stuff like that and trying to be a role model to a bunch of, the young generation coming up is one of the quotes that I've read and a lot is, be the person you wish you had when you were a kid. You know what I mean? Be that, and be able to touch so many people. And that's kind of hopefully what I'm trying to aspire to be and do those. So it's great that, again, he was designing for the 17-year-old him and, for the people like you. And now you've been inspired and being motivated and stuff. And you're mentioning a lot of quotes about the Ablohisms and stuff like that. So now I'm going to ask you, like, what would be your favorite Ablohism that you've read?
I would probably stick with that, man. Like, it's just to create for yourself, right? It's just to, because we're so pressured to do what's trendy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like, I mean, and it's kind of a faux pas even in fashion because like, you naturally, if you're into fashion, you're naturally observing trends. That's just what we do. If we're a fashionista or we love fashion and design, like I'm like, oh, okay, so corduroys are back in. Like, you know what I mean? But he's challenges it in the sense where it's just like if you're at the design from the standpoint of a designer, if you so happen to use corduroy fabric and it so happens to be like the thing that trends, then great. But at the moment of creation, just let go of all of that and just do what you want to do and, express yourself in that way. And I think that's probably one of my favorite things about that book. It's just like it's all about like letting go of just what's cool, what's trendy, what's hot, right? Yes, those are things that influence what gets put on a mannequin at the end of the day because you need sales.
Right,
Let's be real. But seeing things from a very sort of untainted level or just like, not thinking so much about the commercialism of it, but more from the artistic side. So I think that's what's really what I love about that book so much.
And it's wonderful that you mentioned that too. Because I remember last year actually I graduated for business administration. So
nice, congrats, bro! Keep killing it, bro.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and I wanted to go for many reasons. You know what I mean? Like I finally found something that I loved is just being an entrepreneur and doing that. So I finally found something that I can go back to school with. But also I wanted to make an example for my son and my daughter. You know what I mean? Like it's never too late. Anything is possible going out there because I didn't.
You have 2 kids?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have 2 kids.
Wow,
yeah,
man.
My daughter just turned 6
That's great.
last week, 21st.
Wow.
And my son is 2.5. He's going to be 3 in April.
It's a blessing, man. That's great.
Yeah, man. And everybody's different. Like I said, I knew from very early age I wanted to be a dad. So I'm so blessed to have one of each, and a boy and a girl, and go through that. And it's so, beautiful to learn all these things. But in going to school and stuff, like in marketing, in my marketing class, I'm not the only one with A+. I just want to shout that out there. I don't want to brag, but one of the biggest things that I've learned in that class that really stuck out was, that be you. You know what I mean? Be true to yourself. You know what I mean? Like when you're creating something, like again, like don't try to follow the trends or because people can see the BS. You know what I mean? They see that you're trying to get the sales or whatever. Be unique. And now we live in such an era where, you know what I mean? Like if you are yourself, people will gravitate to you. They're easy. It's easy to find you. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And it's great to being unique and also tying that into fashion because recently, which I just seen on Disney Plus, which has now been like one of my favorite movies now, Cruella.
Oh my!
Have you seen? I know you had to have seen it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, but spoiler alert, man. But when the dump truck came and dumped her out, and then she came out, and then it was just like a long. And I'm not into fashion like that, but I was like, oh my god, like the presentation, this. I was so captivated by a lot of her outfits and the way that she was herself and unique and went out there and dominated.
Yes,
being unique and individual.
That movie, like, low-key inspired me. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I actually watched that. I think I watched it on the plane, and I was like, how have I not watched this sooner? Like, I mean, what an incredible film. And like, it really did inspire me to like keep going, like legit, because like she really was like, she became like a phoenix, right? Like she rose from the ashes. Every moment that she had to like push her brand, right? If we look at it from a marketing perspective, exactly. Right? She just went over the top and created these. And I started thinking, I'm like, if I ever launch my brand, like if I ever, when I launch my brand, when I do this, I want to create one of those moments. Like I want and I think that's just so inspiring. That movie was like, and I never thought they were going to have such a fashion angle with it, but I get it. It was great.
Yeah, I was so taken back and how much I was really like on the edge. When she started the first one and then like all the scenes, I was like, oh man, like what's she gonna do next? Like I was like so next, and I was like, man, like I really started to understand the hype behind fashion.
Right.
And seeing that and really like creating that. So I think it's very important, like you said, creating your own thing, creating your own brand.
And it's about creating experience. Like one of the things like right now we're living in the experience economy where people crave experiences. Like they crave, and I hate this, but yes, Instagrammable moments. They crave something different and unique. So that's one of the things that at least I want to make sure that I take when I launch my brand is like to create an experience. Like I think Off-White, Heron Preston, McQueen, like some of the greatest designers, like both in streetwear and like high-end couture, like they create experiences from the moment you walk into those stores, right? From the moment you watch their show on YouTube, when you watch the actual runway, or you physically go and you get the opportunity to actually go to a fashion show and sit there and watch, and it's an experience. Like everything from the music that's being selected to the who's gonna go first and how is the show gonna end, and it's like it's a show, but it's also somebody's vision that's being delivered in a way that's it's pulling you into an experience.
And speaking about like the shows and runways and stuff that you've been to, I mean, what has been your favorite one that you've gone to?
Till this day, Prabal Garoon. So Prabal Garoon, I had the blessing of attending one of his fashion shows. Was like 2.5 years, about 2-3 years ago, Fashion Week. But this designer is like super colorful. That's one of the big things I learned was to like, Eber, like you got to fuck with some color. Like, because I am like, if you look at like the things I wore before I lost the weight and even after I lost the weight, I was wearing I'm wearing like a lot of black. And when I watched that show in the combination of like pastels and like colors that I would never fuck with, I'm like, I really do need to like throw some color into my life. And like, I'm starting to play with color now. And like, but that was probably one of my favorite shows. And also because the cast of Pose was there. I don't know if you ever seen Pose, but Pose is an amazing show. Shout out to everybody that understands and knows the voguing community, which is an underground dance community.
Yeah, I know.
It's not underground as much in these days anymore. But like, I was also very influenced by Vogue. So watching the cast that I literally just was like super obsessed with this show, and then getting to meet the cast, like that's probably what made it even better and even more of a reason why it's like my favorite show. So yeah.
Now going against like the thing with fashion and stuff like that, I mean, if you had to look at people who are interested or wanting to get into that, what would be some advice or some tips that you would give them?
To get into fashion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say like you definitely don't need to go to school. I think we've had enough designers that have proven that, right? I think that it's about being thirsty for knowledge, getting a mentor. And that's like with anything. That's one of my biggest, things that I teach. I try to like push and instill on people is find a mentor, find people that are out there that are doing what you would like to do, or sometimes explore. I mean, sometimes you just don't have to make the decision and say, this is what I want to do. Sometimes it's just exploration.
Right.
But I would probably say, I was probably like go out there, try things. Like I love going to Mood in the City where it's like all fabrics. Like just go expose yourself to as many things in the industry and in fashion as much as you can, and like meet people. Like, really network is probably like super, super important. Like I wouldn't have gone, I've taken like pattern making classes where I can actually cut and create like things like a skirt and pants, like sewing classes. Just go and become a sponge and learn and absorb and find the right people that can be a blueprint for you to follow. And somebody like Virgil, like learning at the steps that he took as well. Or some like my one of my mentors. I haven't spoken to her in a while, and I'm sorry. She's, but Irina, she runs a school in South Norwalk. She was my original like fashion design professor, and she's taught me so much. And it took me to have the open mind to go and and find the information and learn, and that's really just like giving me the confidence I needed to kind of pursue these programs in these really, really awesome schools. So
and I think that goes back, like you said, which you said again, was just being open-minded to these, because you guys got to be open-minded, go out there, learn, different trial and error and stuff, because you don't know what's going to stick, and you know what you're going to like, or what you're going to be exposed to. And also, like you said too, is creating a very strong network. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of things that we say around here often is your network is your net worth.
Yes. Networking is everything. Everything. Till this day, for I think the past 6-7 jobs that I had, at least the past 7 jobs that I've had, or at least 6, I didn't apply to any of them. So I didn't get it because I applied, right? It was because somebody introduced me to somebody that introduced me to this job, right? And so and LinkedIn is like just reaching out to people. Like that's one thing I always say is like LinkedIn is one of the most powerful tools of the 21st century. Like if you're not on LinkedIn, I don't know what you're doing. Like it's so important. It's such a powerful tool, and all the opportunities I've had in my career has come from either LinkedIn through networking, or just somebody word of mouth, and and then that's really helped me in my career and get to where I am today. So
no, definitely, and I seen like you've had a wonderful journey and everything that's going on, had a lot of experiences and stuff, and I'm so glad that you're so open with everything that you share with us today, and just getting out there, because I think it's important for people, again, too, like just give this somebody to see something. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, hopefully somebody sees this and like, you know what, I can relate to that and really inspire and motivate them. And this is a whole thing behind that. And I know, like, so through you having so many different experiences and meeting so many different people and having such a huge network, to you to this day, what has been the the best advice you've received?
Explore. That has got to be the best. I mean, and this is something I preach to like people I love and my best friends. I always preach this, is like, we are so caught in making decisions, right? Where it's like, okay, I've decided I'm going to be a fashion designer, right? Like, because people are so used to playing it safe, and they want to have like a very structured path where it's like, okay, if I do this for 2 years and then I get this, and then my title changes, and then I get this, now I get more money, and then I get this, like it's all laid out there for them. So they always want to like make the decision of doing something at that moment, where what we don't take the time to do is explore something, not make any decisions, right? Like I've not yet decided I'm going to be in fashion design. I have yet to actually decide that. I know what I want to call my brand name. I know kind of the things that I want to design, but I could be going down this path and decide this isn't for me. I don't know. I didn't really like pattern making, for example. Like I hated it. And my professor was like, "You're going to hate this. Power through it." I'm like, okay, and part of the things that like I have like a backlog of things I want to explore. And at the top of that backlog, I prioritized fashion design as a thing to explore. But I have a bunch of other stuff I want to do too. And those are areas of exploration. They're not decision-making things. They're not monumental changes in my life. They're basically things I just want to learn more about. And that's something, that exploration muscle is something that we don't do much often. So I'm like pre-planning to already explore music. Like I want to get into audio engineering. Like I want to start to sort of create music. That's something I want to get into. And that's something that Virgil actually influenced me in a lot of that because he's also a DJ. And he also makes music. So for me, it's like, what is your backlog of things that you want to explore? That's the biggest advice that I've ever gotten. It's just like learn, try things out. Don't try things out to don't get obsessed with the decision of like being something yet. Just see if you like something. Like see if what it does to you or what it makes you feel before you make a decision. And it's something that people, I hope, take that, especially if you're young and you haven't decided on a major yet, if you haven't decided on like a career path, because that's something we have to do, right? Yeah. It's, sometimes it's like, or like even being an entrepreneur, making a decision to open a business, right? Like I have my best friend, just opened a coffee shop in South Norwalk, and like making that decision was, is a very monumental one. But I think entrepreneurs in general are like really good at taking risks, right? Because they go and they test the waters with something, they experiment with something, and then they make that decision ultimately. But there's room for exploration first before a bunch of money gets thrown out the window, right? So I think that's just the nature of it. And so I would say that's the biggest advice. Don't stop exploring passions and things that you're interested in and don't get obsessed with the decision of transitioning your life into that all of a sudden because you feel like it's a good idea right now,
No, definitely understand. I've been saying this too, is that the road to success is paved with the bricks of failure. You try something, you don't like it, you move on. I remember, again, because it's high school, it's all about what's going to be your major, what are you going to go to school for,
it's like,
and all this pressure. And I was
make this decision right now or you suck at life. Like, it's like, relax. Like,
and it's so funny. It's such changing because, again, I remember I went to school, I was like, you know what, I like video games, going to go for video game design. So 2 weeks after graduating high school, I was at Gibbs in my first class doing programming, which I ended up hating. And I dropped out. And I was like, okay, I like computers because they make a lot of money. And that was the thing. It was like, what can I do that I like that makes a lot of money? Wasn't because I love it, but like something that I could make a lot of money off. And I was like, okay, let me do computer networking.
Yep.
And then I hated it. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and then the funniest thing, like the one job that I've, apart from podcasting, which now like I found my thing, was like, you know what, I love sitting down with people. Like, this is what I've always enjoyed. I'm so happy doing this, was cleaning pools. I love cleaning pools. And being a pool tech, and pools are just like,
that's awesome.
Which is so what? I mean,
like,
and at first I was like, kind of like, I guess like a little embarrassed. I was like, oh, like you're a pool boy, but then it's like there's so much involved in it. Like there's chemistry.
There's a science and a half, man.
Yeah,
that's a science and a half.
Stuff with
Absolutely.
your hands and all these things, and then seeing all these beautiful properties and all these things was just such an eye-opening thing, which I do love doing. And I mean, anytime I go to a pool, like I'm like, all right, I can tell you where the filter is without even knowing, like seeing the layout, because I know the design of how the pools are and where everything is and how it works, and it's something I'm passionate. And it's okay, like you got to go out there and do different, because you don't know what you're gonna like.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna enjoy doing, and it's important to love what you're doing, and then you'll be able to make money off.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You'll find a way to transition that. Like Absolutely. Right now, I mean, I love doing podcast. I'll find a way to start making money off of this and doing all these things, but this is where I'm happiest at, right. And I want to enjoy doing this.
Like people ask me all the time, it's like, do you love what you do right now? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in product development right now. So I help companies like Fubo and like, technology companies improve their products, right? When people ask us like, what do you do? And do you love what you do? I love what I do. So why are you like still in school? And I'm like, what do you mean? I can't find more things I love to do? Right. Like what is the question? But it's because people are just so caught into like, you need to be doing things that's like your career and like your thing. I'm like, I love my career. Like I would not trade that for anything right now. Like it keeps me exploring more things. And it's funny because like in product development, we run experiments like to see whether the changes that we make to the products will work or not, or if it will help users have a better experience, right? And it's almost like taking that same experimental approach with just everything in your life, right? It's just like, try things out. If it doesn't work, try something else. Like, but the whole point is having that mentality to continuously explore. That's what, like I said, is the biggest advice that I ever received. And it's something that, I use in my career, and also just to learn and discover new things, new passions, right? So, and continuously working on that backlog. I have, real estate is something else. Like I love the real estate. I just always am looking at houses. I'm always looking at that's one thing that I've always wanted to, and I was actually going to school for that. And then, I had to put things on pause for various reasons, but, and then I also was, like I said, audio engineering, interior design is in there as well. Like I love and that's why I think going back to Virgil, he did architecture, music, fashion, art. He's created sculptures. Like he's gone beyond just what he's doing, getting paid for. You know what I mean? And what he's getting paid for, he still loves. He's just finding other things he loves. And when you have that, when you identify things as something that you love or something that makes you happy, keep exploring it, keep going. And like, imagine if like there's people that are like successful in their careers and they don't even love what they do.
Right.
Imagine where they would be if they're doing something they love to do, and how successful they would be. You know what I mean? So anyway, so again, going back to the exploration, super important. And I hope everybody takes the time to explore what they love and all that jazz. So
and I think that ties into just that, like, where we were raised in a society where, again, like, labeling, you know what I mean? Like, we want to label you as a product manager. That's all you are. But why? You know what I mean? Like, your Eber loves this, he does that, you know what I mean? Like, and the more we enjoy out of life, because we only have one life, live it to the fullest. We might find 10 different things that we enjoy doing and find the time to do it and be successful. So it's okay. I think it's like important that I tell like the young people, it's okay not to know what you want to do. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be confused. Yeah. It's okay to, want to try different things. Like, do those things, because that's what's going to help you find out what you want to do, trial and error, and figure those things out. Now, no wind down. So I got one last question for you.
Let's go.
So my last question is again, based on your life experience and everything that you've gone through, looking at the younger generation, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh man, I mean, just be yourself, and just be yourself. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's just be fearless in exploring who you are and exposing who you are, and just being yourself, because I think that's the most beautiful thing, is when you have the courage to do that. I think nothing can stop you, because you don't have to adjust what you say or what you do to make certain people happy. And you don't have to, you march to the beat of your own drum. It becomes a domino effect for everything in your life. And from it will stem success. From it will stem the relationships that you engage with, right? The people, your camp, like if you're yourself, then the people that are going to be around you are going to be genuine because you're being genuine. And those people are always going to push you and propel you forward, because those are the type of people you're pulling into your camp, So I would say that's my number one piece of advice, is just be you, and that's it.
And you said that, bringing people to you and closer, but the number one thing, the most important thing that it's going to bring you is happiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? That you can wake up every day and just be happy knowing that you're yourself.
Absolutely.
Because, again, we've both been through that, trying to live a lie. And I'll say this again, too. I think Jim Carrey said it best when he said that depression is your body telling you it's tired of playing this character.
Right, that's right. I remember that.
I remember that clip, and I was like, one of my lowest, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's what this is.
Yeah.
So I mean, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on my show.
This
and
has been awesome.
This is dope, bro. So thank you so much. And as always, everybody, like I always tell you, man, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves you. Stay blessed.